Joining us now for a conversation is DMK leader Mr. Palanivel Thiaga Rajan. Sir, thank you for talking to Times Now. You're going to contest from the Madurai Central Constituency once again. How is the ground looking for the DMK? What is the narrative of the DMK this time in 2026?
Well, I think at some level there are macro trends across the state, and at some other level every constituency is different. That's why you get different results across different constituencies. So I'll do my constituency first because I know it better. In my constituency, now that I've been the MLA for 10 years, 5 years opposition, 5 years minister, when I was opposition, there was no local body, so I was effectively serving as the councillor as well. So all that together, I would say that my connect with the constituency has gotten better and better. Last time, I had won almost 50% of the vote and all but 5% of the booths. I think I won in 95% of the booths. This time my ambition is to win 100% of the booths and try to win closer to 55 or 60% of the vote, because one of the major vote getters last time was the Makkal Nidhi Mayam. The other vote splitter was the STPI, also with the DMK. Now all of those parties are in our coalition, so effectively between my work and my greater coalition, I'm expecting that. So that's at the local level. At the macro level, I think the DMK has a very strong narrative on two fronts. One is, having been in government now for 5 years, after 10 years out of government, we have a wonderful contrast of what we have been able to achieve compared to what had been achieved in the 10 years before that. And as I've said in many places, as the Chief Minister has said, we have more programs with more data and more thoughtful kind of implementation with greater impact. So on the one hand, people can't accuse us of just doing freebies without growth, because we've had, for the first time in 12, 15 years, double-digit real growth, and with inflation about 16% growth. So clearly we must be doing something right to get that outcome. And we have not deteriorated the fisc in any way, though the absolute numbers always look high because of inflation. The debt to GSDP ratio and the interest to revenue ratio have not significantly deteriorated, not got better, not got worse. And yet we have implemented so many new schemes and got such great economic activity. So the one hand is, what have we done? Most governments should first argue on that. We have done good things, we will do better things. Here's a great manifesto, give us a chance. In this case, the underlying theme ever since 2014, in all elections in Tamil Nadu, whether they're General Assembly election or General Parliament election, is that there is a huge kind of authoritarian and kind of intrusive anti-federalist streak in the current BJP government since 2014. In fact, it's reminiscent of the Congress government's authoritarianism back in the 70s, including emergency and all that. In fact, it's not as bad in some ways and much worse in some other ways, because they seem to have no compunction about using taxpayers' money as political leverage, etc. Of course, it's not a declared emergency, so in that sense, it's not as bad. But anyway, the net result of all of that is, in all elections in Tamil Nadu, the underlying theme is, do you want to continue to have autonomy, self-determination of your children's education, of what you eat and how you live? Or are you willing to allow some kind of diktat of homogenization to be thrust down from Delhi, and using levers and tools like obdurate governors who don't sign bills, or withholding of funds beyond the statutory requirements, thrusting conditions, or legislating into state subjects, or somehow trying to reduce your ability to function? Then, of course, we will bring that up, as the Chief Minister has done, and he's encapsulated very simply by saying it's a fight for, do you want government based out of Chennai or based out of Delhi? Because the state government should be based out of the state capital, but our opposition party, the DMK, allegedly Dravidian party, is now signed up with the BJP in a coalition. And there are many places where they cannot violate the diktat because of that coalition. So that's the points we'll make.
Sir, the DMK has been speaking a lot about the national education policy, delimitation, SIR, etc. So, do you think all these topics and the conversations that the DMK has been able to establish about these topics, will that strike a chord with the people?
Yeah, I think in every election you find these are not like, esoteric topics. These are affecting our everyday life. And in all of these, you find that, again, this kind of tendency to say my way or the highway with no consultation, with the, rules and models thrust down without proper debate, without kind of equitable access. These continue to happen, and it is a lived experience every day. So people don't need to be kind of fed any narrative. They can see it in real life every day. And in that sense, of course, people have to decide whether they prefer to have autonomy, which we call federalism and states' rights, or they prefer to be kind of subjected to some diktat from Delhi. In that sense, I think it's natural for all human beings, and particularly for the ancient Tamil culture, and particularly since the self-respect movement of Periyar, that there will be a resistance to this homogenization and authoritarian and my way or the highway approach from Delhi.
Sir, as far as the national education policy is concerned, what the BJP says is that although there is a mandate to have a third language, that third language need not be compulsorily Hindi. It can be any Indian language. So where is the imposition is the question coming in from the BJP. What is your response to that?
It is not a question of imposition of Hindi first. It is a question of imposition of policy. Why do you believe you can tell us what we have to teach our children? Education, though it's a concurrent list subject ever since the emergency, the unwritten kind of rule was up to higher secondary will be in the state's hands, and then things like university education will be through UGC and some common norms, and that's kind of reasonable if you must have it concurrent. Of course, we have asked that it should be brought back to the state list. But if you insist that we have to teach three language, then it is a kind of imposition in multiple ways, leaving Hindi aside, which is a backdoor point. The first point is, why should we teach three languages to elementary school kids? There is not any real example or evidence of it being successfully done with great outcomes around the world. And in fact, most of the places in India, particularly in the north, where they try to teach a three-language formula, they fail in teaching even Hindi alone properly. Now there's a logic that says that if you could teach two languages properly everywhere, you wouldn't need a third language, because you could have English as the link language, not just between the states, but also with the rest of the world. But these are all old arguments that have been, rehashed multiple times. The fact of the matter is that Tamil Nadu has one of the best educational outcomes, both at the kind of high school graduation level, inclusion of women perspective, and the gross enrollment in higher education, as well as we graduate something like 20% of India's STEM graduates, when our population is less than 6% of India's. It is not clear to me why the government of India thinks that they need to help us improve when we are already by far number one, or they need to force us to follow their model to allegedly improve. That makes no national or rational sense to me. So we pushed back hard on that. I also point out that if you look around the country, the states which were divided on linguistic lines in 1952, including Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, now what is, former parts of those states like Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, etc., they were divided as different states on the basis that they had different languages. Now we consider them all the Hindi belt. So clearly, once you start forcing a third so-called choice language, you end up getting Hindi imposition through the back door. The other point being, this NEP is the third NEP since independence. The first two NEPs were actually enacted as bills in the parliament by the Congress governments, once in the 60s, once in the 80s. In both those NEPs, they actually talked about the three-language formula. In the first one, they said compulsory three-language. In non-Hindi predominant states, it should be mother tongue, English and Hindi. And in Hindi predominant states, it should be mother tongue, English and a non-ancient, that is a modern Dravidian language preferably, presumably to keep out Sanskrit and make it like Tamil or Telugu or Kannada. But by the second NEP in the 1980s, the government's bill itself acknowledged that they had not been able to implement any aspect of that successfully, primarily because the northern states, which were Hindi states, did not have teachers to teach Dravidian languages, and the non-Hindi states did not have enough teachers to teach Hindi language as a language. So basically they admitted that it could only be optionally done if the states really willed it and wanted it and built the resources for it. We say in the age of AI, in the post-programming age of AI, it makes no sense to be forcing children to learn languages just for the sake of some kind of homogenization impulse of Delhi. We say that what AI can't do, people need to actually spend time on learning more humanities, more depth of fundamental fields, more ethics, more kind of social sciences. And so we certainly don't want to impose compulsory third language. Anybody who wants can learn 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 languages anywhere they want.
So as far as the delimitation is concerned, the BJP says that the representation of Tamil Nadu in the parliament will not be going down, and the DMK is in fact spreading a fake narrative because the delimitation has not even been implemented yet. So without even knowing the clause of delimitation, how can the DMK accuse the BJP of trying to reduce the representation?
We raise legitimate fears, because if you wanted to not have fears, the simplest solution was to do what the Congress government under Tirumadi Indira Gandhi did in the 70s and what the BJP NDA government under Atal Bihari Vajpayee did in 2000s, which is to extend for 25 more years the freeze on number of seats redistricting between states. That solves all problems. When you don't do that, when you allow the 2001 extension to 2006 to expire, when you rig the system by not doing a census when you should do a census, so that you're doing the census only after 26, publishing it. When you kind of build a parliament for 800 and odd seats, new parliament, then of course we start getting nervous and we ask questions. Then they say, no, we're not going to do anything till 29. Then they say, no, the women's representation is coming at the same time. Then they say, no, we're changing the timeline. It is the history of this government that they act first, then check whether it's legal later, then check whether it's thoughtful later, then check whether it's practical later, then check whether other people agree later. All this, this, as I say, the dictatorial attitude. If they feel like it, they'll do whatever they want. After that, they'll decide whether to ask support, whether to debate in parliament, whether to actually, have a bill, if not. So, because of their track record and because of their actions, we are rightfully concerned and we raise it. We are not scaremongering anything. We're just raising the question. These are the fears we have. Reassure us if you can.
Which they are not doing.
Yeah, which of course they are not doing.
Sir, also I want to talk to you about, the BJP's claim that they've seen a lot of growth in Tamil Nadu in the last 5 years. They say that their presence has increased across Tamil Nadu and they've been aggressively trying to make inroads into Tamil Nadu, and they believe that this time they have a better chance. And this doesn't only apply to Tamil Nadu. In fact, they feel the same way in Kerala and West Bengal too. So what do you have to say on this?
Yeah, I generally try to limit myself to things that I know something about. I have no idea what's happening in Kerala or West Bengal. So I live and operate in Tamil Nadu. I'm elected in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, I can tell you that there is a basic mismatch. There is a kind of, it's like opposite poles of a magnet between the BJP's values of one nation, one language, one religion, one approach, one homogenization, one leader, one kind of policy, and the Tamil identity. We are, I would say, on the one hand, the most Hindu practicing state, Hindu practices following state in India, with lakhs of temples, lots of festivals, lots of color, lots of festivities, lots of events. And on the other hand, probably the best, communal harmony across religions, certainly of any large state, right? With very little tension between anybody. In fact, today we were just at a rally where you interviewed me, where because of the sound of the crowd and the speakers that we were using, our star campaigner, Tirumadi Kanimoli Karunanidhi, couldn't quite hear that the mosque had started the call to prayer. And our office bearers, who are clearly Hindu by the kungumam on their foreheads, reached out and said, Akka, please stop talking. The call to prayer is on. And she stopped and waited for it to finish. So here are Hindus respecting the traditions of the Muslims in the campaign, and a relative non-believer like Ms. Kanimoli making sure that she doesn't offend anybody and we all get along together. That is Tamil Nadu's characteristic. So in that kind of state, trying to bring the Hindutva, homogenizing great leader model doesn't actually take much traction. So I think, of course, everybody is entitled to their perception and opinion. I'm sure they're doing polling and surveys like we are doing. Election results will tell us where things really stand, assuming they're not rigged. Yeah.
Sir, I had this question for later, but now that we're talking about harmony, since you're from Madurai and you're also, a spiritual person, as I know, I'm asking you this question, that the BJP was seen supporting the section of devotees here who wanted to light the lamp on the Deepathoon in Tirupparangunram Hills. In fact, the BJP chief Nayanar Nagendran, he was here in Madurai supporting the petitioner in that particular case, Mr. Rama Ravikumar. And the BJP was also part of many protests regarding the same. So do you think, all these sequence of events in connection with Tirupparangunram would have had an effect on the BJP's electoral prospects in Madurai in a positive way or a negative way?
Maybe negative, but even that I'm not sure, because that has been their tendency to create kind of conflict and try to politically profit from it. And so most people know them for what they are. But I certainly see no betterment of their prospects. In fact, though it's from a rival channel, I would urge you to see a documentary that was made, very well made. And why it's important is they interviewed people from different kind of walks of life and different political parties. I was a minister, MLA. They also interviewed the MLA of that constituency, who happens to be an ADMK MLA, who's already in a coalition with the BJP. And then they interviewed some, community kind of NGO type service people and so forth. And all of us, including the sitting MLA of ADMK in Tirupparangunram, said this will not be an electoral issue. We all get along fine. There was a legal issue, there was some, clear technical questions, there was this, that and the other. That will not affect communal harmony and will not affect electoral prospects. If he said that, I believe him, because he's a local MLA, he was elected by the people. And certainly nobody in my constituency or nobody when I tour around Madurai is coming up to me with great angst, asking me what happened to the fire. Right?
Sir, of course, as you said, the contest in 2026 is only between Tamil Nadu and Delhi. What about the third factor in the elections this time, that is Vijay's Tamalaga Vetri Kalagam? Because Vijay keeps reiterating that the contest is only between DMK and TVK. So do you think this optics of Vijay is not working out in the ground, or do you think the contest is...
I don't know. Till the elections are over, we can't tell. But I will just say, based on my political experience and understanding, and more importantly, based on my kind of desire to see democracy be a successful way of the republic functioning, I welcome and encourage all new entrants into the political sphere, whether that is parties, individuals, from whatever walk of life, wherever. It is a good thing, right? 1,000 voices should be heard. The debate should be broad and vigorous. And that's what strengthens a democracy and a society. In that sense, I'm very happy that there's more entrants. If one of them happens to be the kind of person who can draw a lot of youth engagement, I'm even happier, because the youth generally are the least active in the political circles, and that is a bit tragic, because they are the ones with the most to gain or lose based on the direction of the country. They got 30, 40, 50 years left to live. Older people don't. So in that sense, I'm very happy that he's engaged. I'm very happy that he's fielded a whole slate of candidates and that they're fighting it at a state level. And all our polling shows that he is actually attracting a lot more younger people to be active and with decent vote share. But on the other hand, our polling also shows, and what logically you would expect, that a party like the ADMK that has actually run the government 5 or 6 times at least since 1977 and has actually had, I think, more years as the government than in opposition, is not something that can be wiped out like that just because somebody says so, right? So, of course, charismatic leaders matter a lot. But organizational capability matters a lot. Institutional strength and kind of continuity matters a lot. So in my constituency, I'm taking the ADMK very seriously, as we are around the state. It is somewhat less of a worry for me because, like last time, the ADMK has actually given it to a kind of minor kind of coalition partner.
Sundar C.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who, but the political party is a minor kind of coalition partner, and so that makes, in my estimation, less of a concern about the organizational capability than if it had been actual ADMK kind of well-experienced local person. So, but you can never write the ADMK off ever.
So do you think it's too soon for Vijay to aspire to be the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu? Because as you say, you say that his party's organizational structure is still questionable, like it is not very...
No, I didn't say that. I said the ADMK is strong and cannot be wiped out. I didn't say anything about the newcomers.
Okay.
I'm saying that aspiration, anybody can have any aspiration. It's a free country. Everybody is Chief Minister once for the first time, right? Kalaignar was once for the first time. Ms. Jayalalitha was once for the first time. If Vijay wants, he'll be for the first time. So I'm not that great a crystal ball gazer to predict what is what. I'm just saying it is a free country. Everybody can aspire to whatever. They should work hard for it, and the people will decide. I just said that I don't think the ADMK is a non-entity. I think the ADMK is a powerful party with a good org structure and deep history and institutional capability that has persisted. In that sense, I disagree with the assessment that this is only a fight between DMK and TVK. That's the limited point I'm making. I'm not making any point about who should be Chief Minister, when and what and all that. The people will decide that.
So talking about the ADMK, many DMK leaders, in fact, they've expressed concern that the ADMK right now is not like how it used to be. That the leadership that the ADMK currently has is not like how it used to be earlier. So do you also feel the same way about your primary opposition party, ADMK?
Look, I don't think it's any question that, Ms. Jayalalitha was one of a kind, charismatic leader, or that MJR was. And I think it takes a while for people to reach that kind of iconic status. So if you ask me, with or without Ms. Jayalalitha is ADMK the same party? No, it's not. Right? My own Chief Minister, I said in many statements, I'm not my father. I work hard and I try to do as best as I can, but I don't claim to be my father. So that's, of all people, we should have that humility. In that sense, I would say it is also probably weakened a bit by the infighting that has happened since Ms. Jayalalitha's demise and the fracturing of the party, where many of the formerly senior ministers or speakers or chief ministers like Thiruvananthapuram, if they have kind of moved on to other things and other places, then of course it must weaken the party. How much? And in what part of the state or across the state, time will tell. Of course, you can make some logical conclusions based on where these leaders draw the most of their strength from, and that is broadly in the south and the east. That's where they're native to, and they have long held senior positions, like Thiruvananthapuram has been multiple times Chief Minister. And so, we see him as somebody with still a big following. The Chief Minister has given him a seat to contest, his old seat. And I personally happen to know him because of some family history from the Kambam Valley. And so, I think he will add value.
Sir, you were part of the DMK's manifesto committee this time, and of course, there are many attractive announcements in the manifesto. The rupees 8,000 coupon for women to buy electric appliances, and the announcement that the monthly monetary assistance will be increased to rupees 2,000. So, if we look at the manifestos of other parties, also they have similar promises. The ADMK has told that they will be making a one-time credit of rupees 10,000 for all ration card holding families, and they've also promised 2,000 monthly for women. TVK has promised 2,500. They've gone a step forward and they've told that they'll give 2,500 rupees every month for women. And of course, we can very clearly notice that women are in the middle of all these manifestos. They are the center of these manifestos. But there is also a section of people who call these freebies, and they say that this is revdi culture, and that instead of giving all these so-called freebies, and instead of making these announcements, they can come up with something better, is what one section of people say. So what is your comment on this freebie debate?
Again, this is like at least 10 years that I've been talking about this, so I'm a bit reluctant to start from first principles again. But I would say that at the base level, there is a lot of political hypocrisy. If you do something, you call it social spending. If I do something, you call it revdi or freebie. Best example of that is the same Prime Minister who coined the term revdi culture or phrase revdi culture back before the AAP kind of elections where they were kind of worried. His party has now opened the floodgates and started giving all kinds of money in Bihar and Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra for elections. So leave the hype aside, leave the politics aside. The more thoughtful economic discussion is that certainly giving cash or direct benefits to people can be a stimulus to the economy, can be a debt to the state, can be improving lives, can be reducing risk. There are many, many, many types of schemes. So in Tamil Nadu, at least, we have always focused mostly on schemes that invest in human development, like at one point the free lunch scheme, now the free breakfast scheme, like the free laptop scheme, like the scholarship scheme for girl students who studied in government schools, now extended to boy students who study. So I think these are all not in question by serious people, that they have long-term multiplier effects. In fact, I would go one step further and say, if you ask me, when Tamil Nadu has grown by 16% notional last year, some component of that is also, I think, because of the increase in consumption through the Magalir Urimai Togai and the stimulus it brings to the economy. So the key, of course, is to manage your finances in such a way that you don't end up spending in such a way that you don't get return. Because if you do a lot of spending that doesn't give you economic return, then you set yourself up eventually for a debt trap, but much more faster for an interest trap. That is to say, your interest payments rise so fast that more and more of your revenue goes to interest, which means that even to do the remaining compulsory things like salaries, pensions, operations, and maintenance, you end up having to borrow. Then your debt goes up, then your interest goes up. So you end up in a vicious cycle where you're increasing ever more. We are not in that situation now. We used to be prior to 2003. And ever since, in Ms. Jayalalitha's time, the visionary passing of the FRA Act of Tamil Nadu, before the FRBM Act of Delhi, and the move to defined contribution pensions, Tamil Nadu's finances improved tremendously from 2003 to 2014. The debt to GSDP improved from around 28% down to 15.8 or something. The interest revenue dropped from 23 or 24 down to like 11%. After that, from 2014, when she first got arrested and incarcerated, till 2020 pre-COVID, there was an every year decline. Revenue deficits got higher, the debt to GDP got worse, the interest revenue got worse. This vicious cycle I told you about, we got into that cycle. And sure enough, COVID also was a major disruptor. When we came to office, first 2 years I was finance minister, we greatly corrected that trend. And for the first time, I think, in the last 25 years, 2 years in a row, the revenue deficit of Tamil Nadu was brought down. Even when growth was only about 12 or 11% notional, unlike 16% now. So it wasn't a COVID recovery because we still had COVID wave 2, we had COVID wave 3, we had extra spending, we had all these campaign commitments, 4,000 rupees per ration card, all kinds of jewel loan waiver, free bus rides. So we did a lot of spending and yet we brought the revenue. I would say in the 3 years since then, we have not been able to repeat that kind of improvement in the fiscal discipline. We have not made it worse, we have not made it much better, but we have brought in so many new schemes that we have resulted in growth that was never seen before. So in that sense, I would say whatever balance a government should normally do between spending money in a way that gives long-term return through increased growth and protecting the weakest and keeping the quality of life for the bottom of the pyramid good, that balance we must have achieved reasonably. Otherwise, we could not say both things. We have not greatly worsened the ratios, debt to and we are well within the limits of the Finance Commission. We are well within the borrowing limits of the Government of India on a rupee by rupee, year by year basis. And so, while still being there, if we are able to generate growth, then that's great. So that's how you balance.
So final 2 questions. So the opposition says that as far as the law and order maintenance is concerned, the DMK government has failed. They say that sexual harassment, sexual crimes against women, custodial violence and murders, they are constantly increasing in the state, and that they accuse you of completely failing to maintain law and order. Do you think that this will be a worry for the DMK in the upcoming elections?
Look, if you're an elected person and if you're part of the government, any crime, any event should give you concern and worry. Your first job is to keep a calm, safe and peaceful environment. Every statistic I've seen, in fact just this morning I was looking at it, is that the actual performance has improved. Number of crimes per 1,000 people, number of murders, number of sexual assaults, whatever ratio you take from 2021 to now, that number has actually improved. What has changed is now all these are captured on CCTV or on cell phone cameras, which have become quite ubiquitous and are easily reported and spread around the media. In a way that also is good because it holds the government accountable. But the reality is that instances and extreme bad and sad events are widely distributed, so it gives the perception that the overall rate is worse. In fact, the overall rate is better. It is still not great. It is not that we can't improve. Any politician, any government should want to keep on improving these, but we are in the right direction. So I hope that people will look at the overall numbers and see that we are moving in the right direction, and I'm sure they will encourage us and expect us to move faster in the right direction. But this is not a trend. This widespread publicity of such events is not only a Tamil Nadu trend. It is a trend all over the world, in Delhi, in BJP-run governments, in other parts of the world. So this greater capturing of instances and the greater circulation and awareness of instances is increasing all over the world. But the actual statistics are that it's actually improving. We should improve it faster. That's what I would say. That's the question.
So final question, of course, one more allegation that the opposition has towards you very strongly is about corruption. They say that there is no transparency and that there has been a lot of corruption charges against prominent ministers, and they accuse the DMK government of misgovernance fully. So do you think this will put the DMK in a bit of a back foot when it comes to elections this time?
I remember I was in opposition from 2016 to 21. We accused a lot of ministers of corruption. We took a lot of cases to the court. We went to the DVAC. We have done this when we were in opposition. Now we are in government. Other people are accusing us. I think in most democracies around the world, at least accusations of corruption are quite common. That's true in America now, where the Homeland Security Secretary had to resign because of alleged corruption on some social media contract. It's true of the UK, where there were claims of corruption during COVID against the government at the time. It's true of the government of India, where there's all kinds of corruption. So I think allegations of corruption are part and parcel of democratic politics. You will always find oppositions making claims against governments. I'm not saying that, that shouldn't happen. I'm not saying that corruption is okay. I'm saying that it is a, curse on the system, and corruption leads to inequality. It leads to a lot of other problems. I'm not denying any of that. All I'm saying is this notion that somehow one party or one government or one state is pure and the other is bad is a kind of hypocritical notion. In fact, I'll take the extreme. Senior economists, part of the ruling party's kind of insider circle, one Mr. Surjit Bala, at a conclave in Chennai, made the ludicrous claim. He says the reason the south, not Tamil Nadu, not DMK, but the south of India grows faster than the rest of the country is that we have discovered a model of efficient corruption. I have never heard such nonsense in my life. Right? I don't understand what efficient corruption means. I don't understand how he assumes that Karnataka and Kerala and Tamil Nadu and Andhra and Telangana and Pondicherry have worse corruption than UP or Bihar or Maharashtra or Gujarat or anywhere. So what I dislike about this accusation, if corruption exists, it exists everywhere. Every opposition party always levels, and sometimes with evidence, sometimes getting convictions, like Ms. Jayalalitha was convicted and sent to jail. But when you don't have any other argument for why a state is doing well, when you say that South is generally doing better than North, and Tamil Nadu, after all your accusations of all the other things, is still growing 16% notional, then you fall back on this kind of, generic excuse. Oh, it's corrupt. Either every place is corrupt or no place is corrupt. What happens to all the places? Are you saying that if UP only grows at 9%, is it because it is not corrupt? I mean, I've never heard this ludicrous explanation that corruption increases growth, right? So, I don't put much, it's a political discussion. I don't think it's any unique issue in Tamil Nadu or this government.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for talking to us. I know you had a busy campaign schedule today, but still thank you for talking to Times Now. That is Mr. Palanivel Thiaga Rajan telling us that this time the DMK will come back to power with better numbers than last time, and he's also speaking about his own constituency and how he's very confident of coming with a better margin this time, in 2026 in Madurai Central. Let's try and see what the leaders of other political parties, especially the aiadmk and the third faction, that is TVK, say for the time being. Dharni Vijay Prakash for Times Network from Madurai.